It's a masterpiece of engineering that takes us 2,000 years back in time. A Roman road running through the south of France. The Via Domitia is a 600-kilometre-long route linking the Pyrenees to the Alps. Our expedition begins here at the Col de Panissard. On this ridge once stood a huge tower, marking the border between Gaul and Hispania. According to several historians, it measured nearly 60 metres high. Restored 30 years ago, these ruins mark the beginning of the Via Domitia. 2,000 years later, we're following that old route, carved out by the Romans. To build their road, they first dug a pit and filled it with sand, stones and mortar, an early form of tarmac. Rocks were often placed at the side of the road so that rainwater could drain away. Once built, priority was given to soldiers and messengers. It was a crucial axis, guarded by a string of fortresses that were still being used in the Middle Ages. The Romans loved straight lines. From this aerial view, you can easily spot the route of the Via Domitia, like here in the fields of the Roussillon region. Our second stop is Narbonne, a city built along this road. The Via Domitia runs right through the town, spanning the Rubine Canal. 20 years ago, a section of the road was even unearthed by chance during building works in the main square. Moving on, our trip takes us to Béziers. Its old Roman bridge is still standing strong against the currents of the river. Further ahead, the Via Domitia has been covered by the tar of several modern roads, but at the next bridge, there's a surprise. In the 18th century, a flood tore away one of its arches. The pointed stone cutwaters, installed to divert tree trunks, protected the bridge for 1,700 years. The journey continues through fields, dirt tracks and onto a motorway. A key stop-off for the Romans was Ambrosum, a place well signposted for today's history buffs. Jacques, the owner of this site, takes us on a tour. Under our feet lies an ancient service station with hostels, streets and stables. It would have been an ideal spot to lay your head. Jacques is a winemaker. He discovered the ruins in his fields a few years ago.
When we were working in the vineyard, we knew that there were a few places where you had to slow down because there were walls. You could see them on the surface. We broke our plows on them, so we knew we had to go gently.
Our next port of call is Nimes, a village which the Romans transformed into a city. Perfectly preserved, the Maison Carrée is a fine example of the grandeur of this place. Its arena could hold up to 25,000 people in its stands. But 2 millennia later, the Romans haven't quite vanished altogether. Some die-hard enthusiasts are keeping history alive. They're in training for Nimes' Roman Games, which take place every spring.
It's a passion and it's a calling. I hope to become a history teacher, and I want to use this experience again in the future with my students.
The man overseeing the whole exercise is not a Roman general, but rather a local history professor.
Yes, it's very important to stay immersed in what the Roman army could have been like. Part of it is hypothesis. It's a work that's based on written, archaeological or iconographic sources. So this is really a global vision of a historian's job. It's living history.
The Via Domitia still exists in Nimes on Rue Nationale, before passing through the Augustus Gate, named after the first Roman emperor. At that time, the city was spoilt by Rome. Its residents even had access to running water, thanks to one of the greatest achievements of the Roman world, the Pont du Gard. This mammoth 50-metre-tall aqueduct was constructed in just 5 years. Its channels were built to carry water, but after the fall of the empire in the 5th century, the water ran no more. The structure became a simple bridge in the centuries that followed. Outside Nimes, the Roman route is hidden under this main road. It then becomes difficult to track. In order to follow its path, you have to look out for these old stone markers. Today you can barely read what's carved on large limestone pillars, names of emperors like Caesar, the number 13 for 13,000 feet, or 20 kilometres, the distance which separates us from Nimes. Thousands of these markers used to dot the landscape. The Via Domitia is just a small section of a huge network. In 6 centuries, the Romans built roads in Europe, North Africa, and the modern-day Middle East. The end of our road lies here at Montgenèvre, 1,800 metres above sea level in the Alps. It's the lowest point to cross the mountain border to Italy, and further roads leading back to Rome.